This is Freedom Investor Radio, and I'm John Pearl. It hit me like a freight train when I realized there was a better way. When I discovered that I could take my future into my own hands. When I realized I could invest my way to freedom. This is what I'm working towards. In each episode of Freedom Investor Radio, we will explore the tactics and strategies used by the top real estate investors and entrepreneurs in the nation. We will learn how you can start investing your way to freedom and take control of your life. Thanks so much for tuning in. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Freedom Investor Radio. I'm your host, John Pearl, and today I am joined by Michael Flight of Liberty Real Estate Fund. Michael, welcome to the show today.
Hey, John, it's great to be here. Great to meet you as well, or meet you a little bit more. I think we met in Dallas a few months, like last month, maybe.
Correct. Yeah, we met at the Real Estate Guys event, Secrets of Successful Syndication. I had heard about you and been introduced to you previously through Adam Carswell. Shout out to Adam. So, Michael, let's jump right into it.
Try not to mention Adam that much. So he's getting too big for his britches. You know,
Adam's the man. He's ultimate
worldwide
connector. All right. So what I like to do is pass it over to my guests, and if you could just tell us where you're at now, what it is that you're doing, and how you got there.
Well, it's a long story, but I'll shorten it up. Right now, we are investing in shopping centers and triple net lease properties. And we have put together a fund, Liberty Real Estate Fund, that invests in single tenant triple net lease properties. That's properties that are like bonds wrapped in real estate. They're guaranteed by, major corporations. And we are also very interested in, probably at the forefront of issuing syndications onto blockchains, which are called security tokens. So, and how I got there was I started in real estate in about 1986. I was a broker, eventually went to work for a large syndicator in the late 80s. They had about 270 shopping centers nationwide. The savings and loan crisis happened, and myself and some partners decided to start our own company. So we started Concordia Realty, and we partnered with major institutional investors. We did a lot of heavy value add with retail real estate. But through the years, I've done just a little bit of everything, probably fixed and flipped with another house realtor, somewhere around 120 to 150 single family houses. We've done workouts for banks. We've done condo projects. We've done apartment buildings, multifamily, office buildings, just about everything except for, industrial, mobile homes and self-storage. So I got to the point where I really was interested in the intersection of real estate and blockchain, because really smart people kept talking to me about Bitcoin. And then in 2017, there was just this explosion of cryptocurrencies and things called ICOs, which were initial coin offerings. Through, mine and your buddy Adam, we got hooked up with some guys out of Romania that were issuing an ICO, and it was called Bedcoin. And these guys didn't know anything about real estate, but they issued this coin, and I think they raised somewhere between 750,000 and $1 million too. And I'm like, if these guys can raise money like this, I need to look into this, because I always wanted to, and then I was talking to a lot of really smart blockchain people, especially Bitcoin people. And I said, I don't understand the math part of it. I don't understand the algorithms. I don't understand why it's not exactly like the dollar, like it's, just not fiat currency. Why wouldn't you do it and back it up with stable real estate? Because then you could have crypto with cash flow. And I said, the other thing is, why wouldn't you back it up with real estate? Because you would have hard assets that, are verifiable hard assets. You could verify, what the amount is. It's a scarce resource and everything else. So I'm like, I really want to create a real estate stablecoin. And then when I went further and further into it, I found out that, it's actually a regulated security. And so you have to issue it if you're in the United States as a security token, which is exactly like issuing as a normal syndication. So you could do a 506C, you could do a 506B, you could do a Reg A. But eventually, where we came out is we got tradable, stable, private real estate.
Got it. And so when you say back up a coin with real estate, what do you mean by that?
Well, a lot of these coins out there, especially like, for example, USDC is a stable coin. And so USDC has $1-to-$1 backing it. So it's, it has, some sort of thing. A lot of these other stable coins out there don't necessarily have anything backing them up. Or in the case of Bitcoin, it's just an algorithm, and people basically buy into the fact that there's only going to be 21 million of them. And if everybody buys into it and the network is stable, then you've got this asset that is like digital gold. And so what I said was, why not have, a security token or a token that's fully collateralized by real estate, so that you are investing in, the real estate, just like you would be if you were investing in a normal syndication and you were buying into a multifamily building or you were buying into an office building. So when you invest in a security token that's a real estate issued security token, you're investing just like a normal syndication. So all the paperwork is exactly the same, except that it's issued to a blockchain. So then it can be tradable.
Got it. And so this kind of leads into like another term I've heard a lot, tokenization, the tokenization of real estate. Can you explain this as best you can for someone who may not know much about the blockchain in general, and how tokenizing real estate is changing the lay of the land with real estate investing?
Sure. Well, tokenization is just basically another digital format. So right now we're kind of in a paper format. And before that, we were in like an oral format. So this is just like a new format. And so basically you're taking a digital representation of the title of that, and you're showing ownership, and then it's put onto a blockchain. And a blockchain is something that you can't go back and change. So it's a digital ledger, and it's also like a communication system. So I like to explain blockchain as just like the internet was something that completely changed communications and allowed for instantaneous worldwide communications, and basically drove the price of those communications down to zero. Blockchain will allow instantaneous transfer of money, value, and assets anywhere in the world. And at some point, it's going to disintermediate a lot of the banks. It's going to disintermediate a lot of the stockbrokers and all that. And so you're going to have 24/7 trading worldwide.
Got it. And what does this look like? So right now, somebody who's doing syndications, whether on the passive or active side, how does this change operations? How does this change the process once you move it over to a tokenized or a coin offering as far as a real estate syndication goes?
Sure. So we'll start out with the sponsor syndicator side. And the sponsor syndicator side, it's exactly the same all the way up to issuance. So you need a good deal. You need a quality deal. This isn't going to be like, oh, I'm going to mint a coin and then people are going to come to me. So you need a quality deal. I would recommend, somebody with a track record, because it's the same thing. It's exactly like a normal syndication. You do the normal PPM, except that there's language in the PPM for a security token, which allows for it to trade, which allows for it to be issued to a blockchain, and a few other things. But the PPM is pretty much the same. It just has to have this extra language in there that says, oh, by the way, Mr. or Mrs. Investor, we're going to issue this so that you can then trade it. Now, the benefits to the syndicator is that there's going to be easier way to keep track of your investors. There's going to be hopefully less investor management, investor admin, and it's going to cut back on a lot of that. And it's also going to give you flexibility in terms of what you can do. So, for example, you could potentially sell additional tokens or things like that. So it gives the syndicator sponsor flexibility, and it should help the syndicator sponsor attract more investors because the investor benefits are really what's amazing. So after you issue the shares to a blockchain, which basically means that they're riding on the rails of the new financial system. And so those shares can be traded. With the SEC in the United States, there is a lockup period for, I'll just say the lockup period right now, because it's easiest to understand, is 1 year. So there are certain situations where the lockup period doesn't have to be 1 year. But for the after 1 year of issuance, then those shares can trade. And so the investor that's in your deal or in my deal, if he decides that he wants to put his money into something else, he could potentially list those with a broker, with an exchange, with what's called an ATS, an automatic trading system. And he could sell those shares and not have to stay in the syndication. For example, my mother was in a syndication and she couldn't get out of it for 40 years because my father invested in something and she was stuck until they decided to wind it down. And so that's the same thing. So it gives the investor extra flexibility. The other thing is that the investor can take their shares as a normal paper traded, syndication. So then they're stuck if the deal is 5 years, 7 years, or 10 years. They're in that deal for the 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, whenever the sponsor winds it down. But with the security tokens, the investor, as I said, can trade. But the other thing is that you can take your payment as an ACH payment directly to your bank account, or you can take your payments in a USDC stablecoin or Ethereum, or we're working on getting your payments done in Bitcoin. So you could actually dollar cost average out of the dollar. And you're also dollar cost averaging with your cash flow out of the banking system. So you control your own assets, you control your own money. Your money goes into a wallet, and your wallet is then accessible anywhere in the world. It's not like you're, decide to live for 6 months of the year in Costa Rica and you have to call your bank back in the United States. You've got your money and your assets with you in this wallet. And so you control your assets. The other great thing is, and we worked out an agreement with BlockFi, but BlockFi is now, kind of going through a reorganization type of a thing because of an SEC settlement. But we had worked out an agreement where the investors could invest their cash flow from us, and they're getting nice cash flow from us, monthly cash flow, and they could invest it into a BlockFi account, and they would get 6 to 8% additional on that. Versus if they got the ACH payment, they're paying $30 a month to keep the checking account at Chase, and then they're getting 0.05% interest. So what's not to like about that? And then one really more cool thing is in the future, let's say you don't want to sell your tokens or you don't want to trade your shares. Let's say you want to hold on to them. There's companies out there like Aave and BlockFi and a few other, blockchain-enabled companies. You could deposit those shares, and as long as they're comfortable with the asset value and the net asset value of those shares, you could potentially borrow against those shares, which you can't do right now with paper syndications.
I'm familiar with BlockFi and Aave. I've participated in, have a BlockFi credit card, and so understand maybe a little better than some others who may be listening. So if I understand this correctly, the cash flow or the distributions you're getting from the syndication would go into a BlockFi account, and would they be used to provide liquidity for other, or I guess for like stake, or you're getting a return on that money that's in the BlockFi account? Is that how it works?
Well, the BlockFi account pays you, a certain percentage return per month, which they are lending money to other people. So they're operating similar to a bank, even though they are not a bank and they're not, don't have any of the FDIC insurance or anything else, but they're operating similar to a bank. So it's just basically depositing your money into a BlockFi account, just like you would deposit your money into a Chase Bank account. And with the BlockFi account, since people are borrowing and they've got a better model that they're lending money on, and there's not a lot of competition in that space, they can get higher interest rates. And so you can benefit from them getting higher interest rates. Or you could also deposit your money into your wallet. And if your wallet is enabled to buy cryptocurrency, you could just say, I want to buy, Bitcoin every month, and I want a dollar cost average in the Bitcoin. But you could also, lock that money up in BlockFi and stake against it. And so you can just earn extra money on a lot of this stuff. There's a lot more opportunity. It gives investors a lot more freedom because, number one, they own their assets, and it gives them a lot more freedom to do with it what they want in terms of investment products.
Oh, that's great. So what's the time frame? Is this currently available to investors right now, or is this something that's kind of down the road, or what's the time frame with all this stuff happening?
It is currently available to investors right now. However, I like to explain that if you're talking about this like a baseball game, we're just walking out of the dugout. So this is the very early stages. There's a lot of people and a lot of interest in this. We actually put together the Blockchain Real Estate Summit to explain to sponsors and investors how these go. And we started out with the legal and went all the way to how they trade. And we're doing that again this year in Austin, Texas in September again. But so there's a lot of the technology is there, the tech stack is there, everything is there. It's just somebody hasn't really put it together as completely as possible. So right now there's gaps in it that you as the syndicator have to go here to get something, have to go here to get something. So it's kind of like a development deal. We're working on trying to put together an end-to-end, platform where people don't have to do that. It's just a one-stop shop and it's seamless so that your investors as a syndicator are onboarded. There's really, your investors wouldn't necessarily need to know what blockchain is, what's behind it. It would be just like going into a crowdfunding portal and say, I want to invest in your project. They put the money up, the shares go through, and then, as soon as all the money is raised for the raise and you close the raise, then you can issue to, a blockchain. So there's a few out there that have gone, full cycle. One that's trading right now on T0 is Aspen Coin, and that's the St. Regis Aspen in Colorado. And he syndicated it as a security token. It was a private deal. Then he took it and put it on the exchange, the T0 exchange. So it is happening. It's just there's a lot of stuff that's going to be really coming online towards the end of this year because there's institutions that are putting it on. And then in the background, there's a lot of institutions that are just putting their data and their information and their properties on blockchain so that when they sell them, it makes it easier to sell, or they could actually just launch those and tokenize those as, tradable equities.
Got it. So yeah, we're really at the ground floor of all this. And that's part of the reason I'm fascinated by all this stuff. I'm a crypto guy. I'm a real estate guy. So I was excited to have you on the show today. And, as mentioned, I've already bought my tickets for the Blockchain Real Estate Summit. I think if you're in the if you're doing any sort of real estate investing, this is too important to ignore right now. So I'd highly recommend anybody who's in this space to get to the Blockchain Real Estate Summit. And Michael, something you alluded to a little bit earlier is the freedoms that come with crypto, and specifically blockchain, smart contracts, and Bitcoin. So something that I have, over the past couple years have discovered as I've started a business and been investing in crypto simultaneously is how difficult it is to move fiat currency, to move the US dollar from one of my bank accounts to another one of my bank accounts without somebody getting in the middle of it and asking a lot of questions, versus I have Bitcoin cold storage. I want to transfer it to an exchange, stake it, do whatever with it. I can do it myself in a matter of seconds. And so what are your thoughts on the freedoms that crypto can offer folks these days?
Well, I always like to say that financial freedom is upstream and above political freedom. So if you don't have financial freedom, you have a much higher likelihood of being oppressed or not being able to make decisions on your own. So I always tell people, get your financial freedom and start working on your political freedom. I am one of the things that this technology allows, and we can see it with the Canadian trucker situation. And I don't care if you're right or you're left. If right now the left is in office and the right takes over, the right can squash your political freedoms just as fast as the left can. So if you want to be truly independent and you want to actively participate in political life, you want to be uncancelable. So as we can see with the Canadian truckers, they shut down bank accounts, and they have gone after corporations and things like that. So as long as you have nexus in the United States, you are going to be subject to some of the things happening in the United States. And I worry that because I really don't care what you say. Well, I do care what you say, but you have the right to say it, and you could say the most obnoxious things possible, and I still believe that you have the right to say it. So, I don't want people to be canceled just because of their views. And I don't care if it's on the right or the left. I mean, I just come down that way. But, the other thing that this allows you, I do want to back up that security tokens are regulated by the SEC. So the US government is involved. It is a regulated thing. When you issue security tokens, you have to do what's called KYC, which is know your customer, and you have to do AML, which is anti-money laundering. And then we're issuing a 506c fund, so we have to do an accredited investor check. So that's all the stuff that we fully comply with, whatever the SEC says we're supposed to do, and the IRS for that matter. But with crypto, you actually, your money is outside the banking system, so that if somebody decides to cancel you, your money is much tougher to get at your money. And there's other things on the blockchain that, a lot of these projects are being set up entirely on the blockchain. So for example, there's a cryptocurrency called Helium, and it provides Wi-Fi, local Wi-Fi to people. So if you run a Helium miner in a Helium node, you're providing Wi-Fi outside of the traditional Verizon, AT&T, or the four people. Not only that, but that's on the blockchain, and so it's completely independent. And it's all these individual nodes all over the world that are running that blockchain. So one person can't cancel that. One company can't cancel your Wi-Fi service. So, and that's just one of many things. There's also, a version of YouTube called Library, and that's blockchain, and that's, a free speech platform. So there's just a lot of things that right now the internet, what they call web, 1.0 was you write something down and people read it. And then Web 1.2, which is where we're at, you can write something down, but it's also interactive. So you're on Facebook and all the rest of it. Web 3.0 is going to be completely decentralized. You not only write it down, you not only read it, you can interact with it and you own it. So Web 3.0 is an ownership type of a model. Right now, we have these large tech companies that just aggregate everything, and these large gatekeepers. So whether it's a bank or whether it's Facebook or whether it's, large governments and everything, they are aggregating things. They're the gatekeepers of things. Whereas in the crypto world, it's decentralized. And again, you own your assets.
Yes, I love the part about owning your assets, and I think it applies today more than ever. Crypto offers folks who live in third world countries to own assets and generate wealth. And something I don't hear a lot of people talking about is the fact that, take for example the situation in Ukraine right now. If somebody who has to flee the country due to the Russian occupation, if all of their wealth is in silver coins or gold bars or something like that, and they are allowed to leave the city and they have to cross through a Russian checkpoint, say, there's a strong likelihood that one of those soldiers is maybe not the most politically correct, or they're probably going to steal some of their money, some of their gold and silver. But with crypto, with Bitcoin, all you have to have is the keys to that cold storage wallet memorized in your head, and you can get through there, and then you can go get back online wherever you set up shop and start your life over with that wealth that you had prior to fleeing. So I think that's a really important part, and that applies to a lot of areas of the world right now. And
I want to interrupt you. It also applies to the United States. If you have more than $10,000 in cash, they can seize that, and then it's almost impossible to get back. And I can't tell you, there's a lot of people that were traveling. Like there was one guy that traveled from North Carolina to Dallas with like $15,000 in cash. And for some reason, they confiscated the cash in Dallas. He was going to buy a car, and they confiscated the cash, and he couldn't get his cash back. And it cost actually more money to get the cash back than it does, because you got to hire lawyers and everything like that. So you're going to spend like $20,000 to $30,000 to get your $15,000 back. So it's a very real situation that it even affects people in the United States, which they don't realize.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of scary once you start learning more about this stuff. And speaking of learning, I kind of became an accidental crypto investor, more of a speculator at the time. And, once they started printing all the money in 2020, I started learning about, how is this happening? How do they just create $4 trillion out of nothing? I was listening to a lot of Kiyosaki, and he's talking about hard assets, gold, silver, led into Bitcoin, Ethereum. Then it was just down the whole rabbit hole. But when you learn about crypto, it kind of forces you to learn more about macroeconomics and how things work, and the Federal Reserve and sound money principles and stock to flow ratios, how much of something can be created and how quickly versus how much is already in existence. And that's the thing a lot of people love about Bitcoin. There's a finite amount of it, and there's never going to be more than 21 million. So highly recommend, if people aren't educated on crypto now, that they need to get educated. And speaking of that,
I just released an article on real estate versus Bitcoin. So
nice.
And it's a long article that, compares a lot of the, compares and contrast inflation protection and all the rest of it. So
that's great. So you mentioned we talked a little bit about the blockchain real estate summit. So where can people go to get tickets to that or get more information?
Sure. Well, I'd like to, say that it's not only for sponsors, it's also for passive investors, so they can learn more about, who's doing it right and who's not doing it right. So you can kind of stay away from that, because the one thing that we see out there is there's a lot of people saying that they're doing tokenization when they're actually doing something illegal. And the other thing is there's a lot of people minting NFTs, and then saying, well, you're going to get a return, or we're going to like mint an NFT of this house, and then we're going to rent this house out. That is an illegal security unless it's issued as a security token. So I would recommend not only sponsors go to this, but anybody who's interested in real estate and anybody who's interested in the future of real estate, because this is where it's going to happen. We're going to have everything there from people will explain how to do NFTs properly to very high concentration on security tokens, issuing, legal syndications that are tradable on the blockchain. And then, for Yucks, one of the friends of mine who is on, he's a guest or actually a presenter on Real Vision with Raul Paul. Nick Hilaris is putting together a metaverse panel, and I told him I'd be on the metaverse panel and talk smack about metaverse, and maybe I could get educated on it. So, but it is September 23rd and 24th in Austin, Texas. And you could go to blockchainrealestatesummit.com.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I heard about this, I believe, at in Los Angeles, maybe, I don't know, probably yucking it up with Adam at some point. But yeah, I'm really excited about it. And so one last question, Michael, I want to ask. I asked to all my guests. As mentioned in the pre-show, I work at a nuclear power plant shutting down in 2025, and I am on a mission to replace my income from the power plant with income from real estate investing. So what is your one piece of advice for someone like me or someone else who's trying to escape the W-2 world and create a life where they're in more control and have more freedom over their day-to-day? What's your one piece of advice?
I am probably the last guy to ask how to escape W-2 because I haven't had a W-2 since like 1989. So I went out and we started our business and I started out as a real estate broker. So there was, it was just straight commission. So I think of course I pay myself now with a W-2, but I would recommend just getting out there, deciding what you want to invest in, and then getting as much information as possible on what to invest in. I know many people that in 4, 5, 10 years, some people have been doing it for even longer, and all of a sudden they realize it's like, hey, I'm getting more cash flow than I am from this job. So I would recommend just starting out, figure out, because real estate, like cryptocurrency, is this vast thing. So you can invest in all kinds of different things. Just, I would say don't hesitate, dip your toes in the water. But, and it's exactly what I would say about investing in cryptocurrency. I would say, dip your toes in the water, buy some Bitcoin, see how it is, get yourself a wallet, take your Bitcoin off the exchange, because if you keep your Bitcoin on the exchange, it can be, taken, the exchange can be hacked or it can be stolen. So get your own wallet. So figure out how to do that. In the same way, decide what you're going to invest in. Are you going to invest in single family house rentals? Are you going to invest in multifamily? Are you going to invest in my favorite, which is retail real estate or triple net properties? The safest thing that you could invest in is probably triple net properties. It's not always the type of high return, but it's like cash flow from the get-go. So you might look at a value add apartment building and they have to execute on their business plan and their value add, versus if you invest in a single tenant triple net property, you get cash flow right away, that tenant's in there, and it just clicks off in their long-term leases. So it's kind of set it and forget it. So, but I would just recommend getting educated and, learning about it, and then, making the move, put together, that stuff, and then, keep investing in it, keep rolling it over, and keep doing things. And then actually learn how to legally avoid capital gains taxes with 1031s and all the rest of it. But just start doing the education now, and then, pull the trigger on both, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and real estate.
Great.
With real estate first.
How can people get in touch with you if they want to reach out?
They can go to our website. It's libertyfund.io. That's libertyfund.io. and just go to the contact page and ask for me. Be more than happy to help them out. And the other thing is that if they're interested in learning more about blockchain real estate, they can go and at the top of our website, hit the report button. They can get a special report. It's called Blockchain Real Estate 2022. So,
Great.
and that's free. So just go ahead, sign up. And we have a lot of education on our website about triple net properties and also about security tokens. And we also have education that we do with the blockchain real estate meetup. And all those blockchain real estate meetups are on the Blockchain Real Estate Summit or
Great.
on our YouTube channel.
Excellent. Well, once again, Blockchain Real Estate Summit, Austin, Texas, September 23rd and 24th. I will be in attendance. Michael will obviously be there. So if you want to come chat with us, check out the website and grab yourself a ticket. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Michael Flight, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Freedom Investor Radio. If you like what you heard, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, and share with a friend. Thanks again for listening.